evening, everyone. How lovely to see so many eager faces in the crowd. A very warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of Architecture and Interiors India, thank you for joining us today for an evening that promises to be exciting and enriching. I'm Shiraz Khan and I'm going to be your host for tonight. So let me start by telling you a bit about this event. Architecture and Interior India's flagship event, Design Debate, is all about taking on contested topics in the field of architecture and design. A phenomenal initiative, Design Debate is a multi-city event wherein every month we head to a new city. We've conducted over 16 editions so far and traveled across the country. I mean, it is definitely safe to say that Design Debate is taking the design industry by a storm. And for our grand 17th edition, we are visiting the city that blooms with diversity of Indian and Portugal art. So here we are introducing Design Debate's brand new theme, Aesthetics versus Economics, in one of the smart cities to be developed in India, Mangalore. You will be hearing a lot more about the theme from everyone present here tonight, so I won't take up much time. My humble request to you would be that we have a lot to celebrate today. Some absolutely brilliant name in the industry will soon be taking to the stage. So welcoming you to this evening replete with knowledge sharing, and let us have a round of applause for Architecture and Interiors India Design Debate, the Mangalore edition. To begin with, let me call on stage Mr. Indrajit Sauji, Group Publishing Director from ITP Media Group, the man who created and ideated the Design Debate Forum, to deliver the opening address. Sir, can we please have you on stage?
Mangaluru, the yesteryear Mangalapuram, as was called by the Pandyan rulers, or Magarat, Nitre, Magnur, Mandegura, Jalalabad, Mangalore. I guess I had hardly seen a place with so many names. Similarly, the architectural saga of the city has been shaped by various cultural, social, and political dynamics. There can't be a better place to discuss on today's topic, aesthetics versus economics, when it comes to discipline of architecture. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this Mangalore edition of Design Debate. And it's overwhelming to see you all in person and to see the hall full to its capacity. I'm humbled by the warmth and love extended to us. A big thank you to our curator, Mr. Venkatesh Pai. Despite his busy schedule, he agreed to wholeheartedly lend us support and help us curate this event. Thank you so much, sir. Anirudh, our next-gen moderator, and our ever-enthusiastic next-gen team for the immense contribution and help to produce the content for this event. A special thank you to Gulshan ji, Mr. Alva, Mr. Collins for guiding us. And a huge round of applause for all of them and for each one of you for being here today and making this event possible. Past couple of years have been really challenging for all of us, and especially the design and construction industry. The pandemic has definitely changed the way we work and way we do business. But before that, let me ask you, do we really consider architecture as a business or design as a business? Do we? Okay. See, many of our designer friends are still hesitant to consider it as a business. The most common complaint I hear from architects is that architectural school did not teach them enough about the business of architecture. Although students take professional practice course in architectural schools, but most begin their career knowing very little about business. As young professional, you may think it's not important for you to know about business, but I believe the better you know, the better you understand the economics behind a project, the better you can manage your time, which in turn will increase your chances of the project being successful and your practice being flourishing. You may broadly classify the business of architecture in two parts, economics and the most important part, art or aesthetics of the business. You must manage both efficiently to run a successful practice. If you falter on one, you are surely headed for a disaster. And you all are in a profession where you can't falter. As they say, a lawyer defends your past, a doctor ensures that you are healthy today on the present day. But you, as designers, have a potential to impact the future, to impact the skyline of a city. You have the potential to shape the skyline and to make history. So we as designers have to be very cautious of our actions, especially in a developing economy and a developing country like India, where they say that 70% of the country is still to be built. And we as designers are still catering to around 4 to 5% of the entire population. So the potential is huge and there is immense scope to grow. No AI or no chat GPT can stop you, can but aid you to reach out to the masses we have, reach out to the population we have in India. Today's design debate brings together some subject expert in this field who will touch upon the mention points and on the immediate and long-term challenges facing architecture. We will chat with these leading design experts and learn from their expertise how we can prepare for a better future and survive and succeed in this marketplace, keeping economics in mind and at the same time not compromising on aesthetics. So let's hear it out from the experts in the field, our esteemed panelists, on which side they are on. A big thank you to our sponsors for believing in us. A big thank you to Asian Paints, our presenting partner. Thanks Pritesh, thanks Vishmaya for believing in us and giving us this opportunity. They have worked throughout the night and have raced against time to ensure that they are able to create an experience for you guys. Please do visit, they have an experience center just behind the hall. Our category partner Nexion, they also have a beautiful display right behind and they'll be happy to showcase how you can ensure your floors are looking stunning as well as like your walls are something to watch out for. They have some very good, very close to nature finishes. Please do look out. Our associate partner, Vibhakar. You have been a great support, Vibhakar, always. And without your support, this event could not have been possible. The entire Shuko team is here with their samples to show you how you can integrate the exteriors and interiors with their state-of-the-art windows and profiles. Before I hand over the forum to Shiraz.
Thank you so much, sir, for that heartwarming speech. Before we delve further into this event, we have a special message from Decor Pro by Asian Paints. Can we please have the AV?
Has become the largest integrated home products and services player in India.
We also wanted to extend the legacy of Asian Paints of Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai and reach the Indian consumer in a true way.
I'd like to invite Ms. Vismaya, brand team of Decor Pro by Asian Paints, on the stage to take the presentation further. Hi, can we please have a round of applause for Ms. Vismaya?
A warm welcome to everybody here. A warm welcome from Asian Paints. We are Decor Pro from Asian Paints. Technically, we are a vertical that is solely dedicated for architects and interior designers. We thank iGen for giving us this particular platform for putting our stall here today. We are looking forward to interacting with you and interacting with all of you at our stall. I think we've met a couple of you and we've had a lot of interactions, in-depth interactions. I think I spoke with one person for almost half an hour at the stall itself, which was a lot of fun, basically. And that is why we like to participate in events in this particular format, right? Maybe people will think, why have we done such an elaborate setup here for 300 square feet and made an entire house, staying up the entire night? What is the logic here? It is basically to further our interaction and our understanding of this particular target segment, our architects and interior designers who are very dear to us. Some of the finishes that you've seen here, for example, are curated only for this segment here, right? So we grow with you. We are able to do a stall like this across the decade because of you as well. And so any opportunity that we get to interact with this very dear people that I would call basically for Asian Paints, since you've seen our AV as well, we will just harp onto it and take it. And in that particular spirit and in the spirit of learning from each other, I am very grateful to be here, and I'm really honored to meet all of you and hope to meet you at our stall as well. Thank you so much and hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you, Vismaya. That was lovely to have Asian Paints and the efforts that they made for this event. We're really grateful to the entire team. Moving on, I'd like to introduce to all of you the curator of the event. He is the principal architect of Pila and Associates, an architectural design firm based in Mangalore. He is also the director of Ashtadik Infrastructure Planners, a consortium of 8 architects for large-scale projects. Having done his schooling in St. Aloysius, I hope I pronounced it right, he studied architecture at MIT Manipal and has worked in Bangalore and Delhi before taking up practice in the Mangalore city. Today, with more than 30 years of experience, his firm is well known for their excellence in design and construction of institutional projects, interior design projects for residential, commercial, restaurants and hotels, commercial projects and traditional temple design and wood and stone carving, and also public projects like Kadri Park development and Mangla Stadium redesign. He is the past chairman of the Indian Institute of Architects, Mangalore, and the Architects Guild. Co-chairman for the Indian Green Building Council, IGBC in Mangalore. He is in the Advisory Council for Mangalore Smart City Limited and MCC Committee for Zonal Regulations and Bylaws. He's been awarded the ACCE Ultratech Outstanding Residential Villa Awards in Dakshina Kannada twice in 2007 and again in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for the curator of Mangalore edition of Design Debate, Architect Venkatesh M. Pai. Sir, can we please have you on stage?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Venkatesh Pai. She has introduced me so well. And I've been asked to moderate today's debate. I'll be handling one session today. It's so nice to see so many faces here. A lot of them are my friends. A lot of them are new faces. So I think it's a good representation of the design and construction industry here. And how many of you are architects? Can you put your hands up, please? Ooh, nice. Hi, guys. I have the chairman of the Indian Institute of Architects over here, Supreet. So he's going to ask you to join the fraternity. Please do join, because birds of a feather should flock together. Well, Mangalore is booming, and as long as the city booms and city keeps growing, we are all in business. So it's nice to see that somebody from outside comes and reminds us, hey guys, you are in business. So thanks for doing that. I'd like to thank Indrajit and his team for putting this whole show together and getting all of us together here. Thank you. Well, the topic for today is aesthetics versus economics. It's a very ambiguous topic, isn't it? What do you think? Everybody is familiar with the topic? I don't think so, because what we're asking, is it possible to create the best aesthetic as the lowest cost? Is that a question? Or are we asking, how much does it cost to make something look beautiful? Because the whole aesthetics versus commerce is a quantum which we have to sit and talk about. And that's what we will do today. You know, there's this old adage that cheap and best. Believe me, there is no such thing as cheap and best. It's either cheap, and if it's cheap, it's not the best. And if it's best, it doesn't come cheap. Because if you've done something very cheaply today, you're going to be paying the price for it over time. Because you use cheap materials, over time you're going to eventually pay for it. You're going to either go through replacement, you're going to replace, you're going to repair it, you're going to waterproof it, and you're going to face the client's wrath, all these things. So I really believe there is no cheap and best. So one of the things that we will be highlighting upon is what does it cost to be good? And today we will be discussing that too. And all of the professionals here. So when this topic came up to us, and so I asked a couple of my panelists and said, what do you think of this? What is this aesthetic versus economics? What do you think it means? The topic is so vague that it was like, you have those four guys blindfolded, and they touch an elephant and decide. One guy touches the leg and says it's a tree, another guy touches the trunk and says something, a tail. So I've got four or five different answers from my panel. So I said, yeah, I think we should all discuss all these things on stage today. So that's what we'll be doing in a short while. So I hope you have a good time today. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Mr. Indrajit Sauji, Group Publishing Director of ITP Media, along with Mr. Pritesh Salyan, Regional Manager, Decor Pro by Asian Paints, to please felicitate Mr. Venkatesh. I would now like to invite Mr. Vibhakar Jha, Head Strategic Projects from Shuko India, on stage to kindly present about the brand further.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Vibhakar. I head the retail business for Shuko in India. Great to see so many people sitting inside the room, right? It's very difficult for people like us to get hold of so many architects together at one platform. So I think really the evening is beautiful, and I think really let's make it memorable as much as a knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer we can together with each other, right? Well, I think you would have seen the video and you would have understood the DNA that Shuko carries forward globally, right? Well, we are a 70-year-old company. We are across 80 countries globally. The DNA is we work every day to devise and create an outstanding buildings, passionately creating outstanding buildings. In short, I can tell you, basically the design, the imagination which you architects really draw on the table, we really want to give it a wing and make it reality, right? That's where Shuko works very closely with all architects, Anything that you possibly think from aluminum is possible in this world, Shuko can really design it, right? So that's the credential that you see. We are across 80 countries globally. We are 2.28 billion euros. We are one of the world's biggest international system companies across the globe, with more than 12,000 partners across the world, right, and over 7,000 employees worldwide, right? That's the headquarters at Germany. It's the same place called Bielefeld. If you heard about a company called Noltec Kitchen, they are also one of the leading German company, who does kitchen works and all that. Their headquarters is also based out of Bielefeld, right? That's our footprint in India. We are across 150 people in India with 3 experience center. Right, we have prominent offices at Delhi, Mumbai being headquarters. That's where I sit in. Bangalore, we have a full R&D center, and to your surprise, we have for the first time out of Europe a global product team sitting at Bangalore, who not only makes the products for India but also caters to the global requirements. So that's the entire system engineering team over here in Bangalore. We also have our in-house lab and testing centers where we test each and every product that is being rolled out to the market before it is, given a differentiation factor to the customers as a whole. So, like I said, when I started my presentation, I said what we are. So, if you see the buildings, some of the buildings that you see are from India, some are in the Middle East, right? That's our passion expertise to create outstanding buildings. And if you see the design complexity in most of the projects, it's really unique because every architect, every designer will have its own set of thinking, and he would want to give a different kind of pattern and flavor to the building. A lot of people ask me what exactly the building is, and I would say the building is basically the personality of an architect which he wants to put in the front of the reality. Now, to create that personality in the physical form and really make it really ambitious and making dreams come reality, that's where I really work closely with all architects across India and across the globe. One of the best part with Shuko is every product that you see, which is installed at your site, at home, or anywhere, be it facade, be it commercials, be it individual offices, it's all internationally tested and certified systems, right? So we ensure that everything that I speak on the stage, right, everything that I speak in front of you, has to be tested and certified. When I say tested and certified, the 3 things are really critical. One is your wind load, right? Now, Mangalore being really near to the sea, it will have a lot of windy conditions. Water penetrations, because no matter how good the interiors are, and if your windows are not capable enough to prevent the waters not coming inside, a lot of interior thing goes for a toss. And third thing is air infiltration, which is very, very unique, because the lesser the air infiltration is happening inside the room, more you're saving on the energy consumptions and your electricity cost. So these are the 3 fundamentals on which we really taste, all of the products. If you look at the 3 parts, design, yes, engineering, yes. Now, there's also a capacity. Now, capacity to serve the customers, meet their requirements in time, in line with expectations. We are one of the biggest warehouse at Bangalore, which is around 75,000 square feet of warehouse. from where we really take care of the whole India operations. Of course, Mangalore being near to Bangalore, I don't think there's any issue with respect to any supply chain and logistics. So that's the credential that we have built, internally and within India. I try to make it more visual because I saw a lot of architects sitting here, and I think you would appreciate and like to see the more of the visuals, right? What I've done is I've just captured few of the very prominent individual residences, premium bungalows and villas, in the slides. Now, this is already featured this year in the global calendar of the Shuko. It's done by 23 DC architects at Ludhiana. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, that's again one of the private homes at Lonavala at Navi Mumbai, which has got some kind of international accreditations this year. Yeah, you can see this is again at Chandigarh. We can keep on flipping the slides, please. Yeah, that's a mango tree house. It's one of the very featured project across India and across the globe. The whole building was done without cutting a single mango tree and giving a theme to it, right? And so we had to protect the trees, environment, and add an aesthetics and flavor to that particular building. So that's the mango tree house for you. Yeah, that's some of the. You can see the double height curtain wall, the big end sliders at Navi Mumbai. That's again at Goa, Pune, right? Then at Jalandhar, at Chandigarh. This one is at Ahmedabad. The point I'm trying to say is now, if you look at all these pictures, every project, every individual homes that you see is really different from the design perspective and the element in that it has it, right? The question is really to make it blended, integrated with the design theme, and make it really, possible in the physical form. And that's what we're doing here. And I would be very happy to use this platform, as an opportunity to say that our footprint in Mangalore has already started. Can we go back? That's the first installed project. It's called Beach House, Suratkal. Architect is Mr. Gulshan Roy. Thank you for your, for the opportunity that you gave, to really showcase the product that we have. So that's the blend that you see over here. That's a nearby, 12 kilometers from here, right? And so, if you summarize the whole discussions, what exactly you are going to get out of Shuko? I think these are the common problems which any architect, which any interior designer, any end users or individual home buyer faces, while putting up the windows, which are basically rattling and windy conditions, your aesthetics, right? Durability, longevity, right? Difficult to operate, anesthetics, bulky, right? Outdoor noise. I think if you really want to come out of all these problems and, upgrade your windows, upgrade your lifestyles, upgrade your interior customers. I think we believe we are in the business where touch and feel is everything. It's very important. No matter how good the presentations could be, how good it could be sounding on the PDF, I think you as an architect and your end customers would really appreciate the product when you touch and feel the product. Keeping same in view, now we got one of the beautiful experience center at Mangalore. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite our sales partner, Mr. Raj Kamal Das, right, over here on the stage, please. Right, this is one of the beautiful experience center, I can tell you. And I would also use this opportunity to invite each and every one of you. Do please come visit the experience center. You have all different kind of sliding systems. You have all different kind of openables. You yourself can touch and feel the product and know the differentiation factors that I've been talking here for the last 7-8 minutes, right? So Raj has been our sales partner over here. He's been experienced in this fenestration industry for the last 15-20 years. I think most of the people, you sitting over this room knows him, right? But yes, please do, take your valuable time and do visit us at our experience center at Mangalore. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to see you all in person. Please do not hesitate if you have certain more queries on Shuko, right? I would be gladly assisting and helping you out. Thank you guys. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Vibhakar Jha for that lovely presentation. Thank you so much. And now moving on to the most awaited part of the event, our panel discussions. Kicking off our panel, we have the young and dynamic next-gen architects, the ones who will dictate the architecture of tomorrow, getting up on stage. To begin with our panel discussion, let me first take a moment to acknowledge the dynamic moderator of the next-gen panel. He is the co-founder and project head at ABCD Design Fundamentals since 2017. His explorations in design is fueled by the desire to engage in the regional context of socio-cultural and built environment. He has completed his graduation in architecture from the University School of Design, Mysore University. After working in architecture paradigm in 2015, he has set up Studio G Ismation, a collaborative enterprise designing multiple institutional and residential spaces all across Karnataka before merging the same with ABCD Design Fundamentals. He handles architectural interior photograph service at AMPH Studio. He is the Council of Architecture and a part of the Indian Institute of Architects. He has recently been awarded for the Ultratrek Well-Built Residential Villa, Udupi, in 2022, and Ultratrek Well-Built Facility Building, Dakshini Kannada, Udupi, Sivamogga and Chikmagalur, 2022, Jury Appreciation Award. Please give a huge round of applause for Mr. Anirudh Muralidhar. Sir, can we please have you on stage? Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of the show. I'd now like to hand over the forum to you. Looking forward to a very interesting session.
Good evening. As wonderful introduction, I feel very flattered right now listening to that. We're going to have the conversation, as Venki told, about architecture and the aesthetics and economics. So to start with this, I would like to call upon the panelists who are going to be with us over here. These are the young practitioners of Mangalore who have been very prominent in recent times, who have been very active and have doing some wonderful projects in Mangalore. So let me start off by inviting architect Rachana Maroli. She is the co-founder and principal architect at RGP Design Studios. She is the recipient of FOID Platinum winner 2020 for residential bungalows, published in Architecture and Interior Trends magazine 2020, and a recipient of the Trends Excellence Award and South Indian Architecture Projects 2021. Her studio, RGPI Associates, places a strong emphasis on creating residential projects. One of their standout projects, which is recently completed, I'm pretty sure all of us have seen, the Mangalore House, which has been published widely, has been on magazines and internet. So that is one of the identity of the cultural and the aspirations that she is looking at. Welcome. Look forward to having a good conversation. Our second panelist is architect Apeksha Naik. Apeksha Naik runs a studio called Hiraya Design Studio. Their portfolio consists of a wide range of projects ranging from architecture, interiors, residence, and corporate offices. Their distinct style of architecture uses local materials and concept with a unique interpretation of contemporary design sensibilities. Some of the projects that she's done is the Raja Cottage of Mangalore, which is a renovation project and has been again very widely publicized and a wonderful project. Welcome to the panel. Hope to have a good conversation. Our third architect is architect Devi Prasad Katil. He is the founder, principal architect at Atelier for Art and Architecture. The firm looks at design as a response to contextual of site, program, and aspirations, void of style, material, and imageability. They focus on exploring design language through evolving local craftsmanship and contemporary outtake. Some of the projects that they have recently done is the Monsoon House atop the hill on Sakleshpur, where the whole interiors is subdued to enhance the context of the Western Ghats and the rains. They've done a Suraj Shetty residence, again in Manipal, with the traditional materials in modern language to contextualize the worldviews and aspirations of the client, and also upscaling the craftsmanship in the area. Welcome to the panel. One more person remaining. This is architect Sampreet Rao. Sampreet Rao is a young architect running the studio, Nerulu Studios from Hebri. He is a young practice architect interested in exploring the architecture as a critical response to culture, climate, and context. He is established in Studio Nerolo in 2019 and has worked in both private and public sectors with projects of varied scale. He is a DC-approved consulting engineer architect for Udupi Nirmite Kendra, and he is engaged in various government projects across Udupi. He is one of the most notable projects is the Parashurama theme park in Mangaluru, which you guys might have seen on the internet, and it's been publicized again very nicely. So welcome to the panel. With this, these are the panelists that you guys have, and welcome to one and all of you. As Venki said, I think one of the first thing is where does architecture and imageability with the budgeting comes into picture. So I'd like to kick off this one with a small question on that, where how do we look at iconic nature of a building? We always aspire to have iconic nature to buildings. So how does that work in the current after COVID and after all the changes that we are looking into the way we practice, how we live, how we work in the general world? Where do you see the iconability of the structure and how does it fit in with the cost that it consumes? So I would like to start off with this. Rachna, Architect Rachna, would you like to take this?
Firstly, to start off, I would like to thank ITP for giving us this opportunity. And coming back to the question which Anirudh has just asked, definitely it's a thought-provoking one to start off this discussion today. I feel that architecture values and preferences has evolved and can evolve over the time. And with this changing, changes that we've been seeing, definitely it influences a lot with the legacy or the prominence of a building. So in that matter, if you just look into iconic structures or any other term that we can use about, these buildings are not just iconic in nature, but also they do relate a lot to do with the impactness. So I was just talking about how these iconic structures are not just simply a structure, but it means a lot. So when we look at a building, I think or let's term it as a fancy building or an iconic structure. Probably there will be so many related factors to that. Definitely one is the economics, what we are talking about today. So definitely these iconic structures don't just happen simply. So there is a lot of factors that come with that. Expense is definitely one of the factor, but more beyond this, what we need to see is, I think probably what these buildings have been doing to us. So these iconic architecture that we are talking about is not just a building, but something more beyond it. So I think just to ease the discussion, I think I would like to relate to one of the examples. The Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, designed by Frank Gehry. So we all know about that building, and we know how great it has been. So this building, if you just look at it as a building, probably is one of the fancy buildings. But what impact the building created was something really great. So this building was able to lift an economic condition of a city, which is not just a simple thing. So I believe that no matter whatever changes happen, so probably we are seeing those changes. We are seeing a shift of design which is prioritizing more on sustainability, more on practicality. Even though we have these changes, I believe that such kind of buildings or iconic architecture will always have its value.
Samprit, you have done the Parashrama Kshetra, which is a very iconic building which is atop a hill. Yeah. So again, taking from that wonderful point of how it always sustains, that there is always a need and there's always an impact that it generates. What do you see? How do you see this again as a public project especially?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to speak about the same thing because I think Parashurama, I think, was as a project representative, it was an aspiration of Karkala Taluk, and it was the aspiration of the minister there and the people there, and it was to boost tourism in the area. In terms of the iconic nature of the building, I think for me, in the last 4 years, one of the things I've been trying to explore is taking culture into as something that we respond to with architecture. And that is the similar approach I took with Parashurama. And what I'm trying to say is, when I say it's cultural, I think most iconic buildings are a symbol of something. So if you were to take Le Corbusier's building, or if you take Chandigarh for that matter, it represented a certain time in history where modernism was prominent and it was picking up, and things like this. So I think architecture, when you say in terms of its iconic value, it needs to respond to the time and place that it is being built in, right? And that's, I think, what makes it iconic in its nature. There's a certain symbol that's associated with that building. Like I said, Parashurama is, in extension, I think, for the people of Tudunadu, it is representing their culture of Parashurama Kshetra. It's not just Tudunadu, but it's the entire coast with their own stories behind it. But I think it's something that people find pride in, to say, oh, we've commemorated Parashurama through this particular project. And so automatically then the nature of the building, just the nature, not even the architecture, just the theme of the building in itself becomes iconic. And as an architect, then how do we add value to this so that the general public feel like it's done appropriately? So I think when you look at architecture being iconic, that's what I think it sort of is.
It's what you're suggesting is that in the project that you had, the context itself was an iconic context of this one, and because of that, the architecture was enhanced in the space.
Because of the theme of the project.
Taking from that, and what this is the Bilbao again, the context was this, or the building was this one. Now, with these are again slightly more subdued in terms of this one. I think here the budget was not that larger component of this project, and here also the budget was for the whole city. Whereas compared to that, into again the iconability of a individual project or an individual structure which goes into very large, spending 10 times the amount which would be generally spent on it in terms of aestheticness and in terms of making it beautiful to get that imageability. What's your take on that, or other way, like that connection to the public and contextual iconability? How do you see that?
So I completely agree with their points. Like when Samprit, my fellow panelist, he was discussing, or he just put forward about the culture. So I feel every place wherever we are going to design has a kind of culture which has a kind of influence on the lifestyle. And when we say iconic, so that term definition of iconic in our design will be somewhere related to that, right? And when we talk about aesthetics in those iconic buildings, I feel aesthetics has a different version when it comes to an individual designer or an individual perception, right? So the aesthetics can be achieved where you have to spend a lot in terms of the resources, money and all economics, etc. But at the same time, the aesthetics can also be achieved with the plain use of geometry, where your material exploration, the material expression, what I would like to call it as, can be kept at a minimal. At the same time, we also go to a different, dimension, where to a different kind of project, where depending on the resources, you can play with certain elements which enhances the aesthetic of the project.
Like this, the expense, the costing doesn't have to go into the aesthetic features.
I feel the aesthetic is something which is an independent of costing, but at the same time, it also depends on how I look aesthetic as. It's subjective, exactly, yeah.
You?
So it depends a lot on the usage of materials, and of course, so in terms of using materials that are new in the market. There's so many new materials in the market who, just giving you a small example, I think we've all seen these PVC and MDF fluted moldings. I think, it's an overdone material at this point. Everybody's used it, everybody's seen it. But when we talk about local materials like, terracotta jali, there's like Mangaluru tiles and everything, I don't think we ever get done with materials like that. They always stand out, and I think that's, something that's here to stay, and they never go out of fashion, so call it.
That's an interesting this one. This comes into the whole logic of materiality in terms of the global way of looking at it, and again contextualizing into the where we are doing. So there is again the how do you the I think that materiality is something which we can look. I would like to ask you guys about that. How do you just look at the materials? As everyone spoke about, there's a context or there's certain materials. How do you look at materials and your aesthetic patterns of it, versus also every material has a cost to it, as everything that goes into a building, every element that goes into constructing has a cost and cost factor. It has got a immense cost factor, and it has got logistical factors also in a lot of cases. So how do you look at that balancing? How do you see that happening over here?
See, material I feel is something which helps you to interact with the space and the things around the space. Like if I'm looking at a tree through a UPVC window, obviously it has certain effect on me, right? But if I'm looking at it through a wooden window, or the kind of opening I give it in, or how I emphasize the tree using the materials on inside, I feel the materials play important part in how we are introducing that interaction between the user and the elements in the space. And the other thing is, I feel material when Apeksha spoke about the terracotta, then the oxide flooring and all that. So the more the natural material, I feel more than wear and tear, that material evolves with age. So there is more aging which happens over there, and that aging you can be very precise in achieving that aging when the material responds to the context around it, like your weather and all that. So the aging of an Italian marble, when I use it in Italy, then when I use it in Mangalore, there is a complete different process of aging. So it doesn't age the same way how it ages over there, because of a different context and all that. So I feel that is how we need to look into the materials in this aspect what we are talking about.
Also, to some extent, when you have certain boundaries, so probably like we are talking about context. So you have a set of limitations that you can do for a project. So in these cases, it's also the matter of the longevity of the material. So that's also something that adds on to it. After you choose a material or you're suggesting your client, it's also important to understand the maintenance part of it and the longevity of it. So I think it's a very delicate task.
In this point, as was previously spoken, there's nothing cheap.
Yeah.
The longevity costs for the best.
Yes.
So, how do you take that? If you say again, when you're talking about local, sometimes some of the materials that comes from outside, which you get it from outside, has much more better engineering and but it has that cost factor, and that increases the scale. This one, so you'll have to maybe cut down on or balance it out by somewhere else. So, how do you look at that?
So I think it depends on the end users. Sometimes people have different priorities. So maybe some of the clients would prioritize economy, in terms of what they want, and sometimes it's not true. So basically, first of all, I think before anything, it is always good to have a conversation with your client. So we all know that nothing comes cheap, but we know the reality, right? So the reality is the economic part of it. So I feel it's very important first to start off there, and telling your client or educating your client about the material, about everything, definitely their needs and so on. So I think that's where it starts, and with the limitations that comes along with it, probably it may lead to another innovation. So let's say due to some budget constraints, maybe we are trying to use more of the local material. So maybe in another other way, if you look at it, probably you're too bored looking at the local material. So in a way, you're pushing yourself to create something new, which in itself creates a brand. So it's a total, it's about how you're going to put that out as a designer or an architect, and it's also part that comes from the end user also.
I would like to add is when we talk about local materials and the techniques, the labor involved and all that, so it actually doesn't fall under low cost brand when you try to implement such things. Yeah, so I think there, depending on how we are going to use it, the economy plays a very important part, even though if it is a local material with.
If there's a point, we'll come to that. I want to just finish off what Apeksha was saying.
No, so initially, I mean, since, clients wouldn't have probably worked on their home or any of their spaces before, so they have this, whole illusion of wanting a lot of things in a very small budget. It's very important that we actually take them to stores, educate them, and now I think there's so much, more access to them on the internet that most people know what they are stepping into. So there's always a figure of budget, sometimes where it's not the case, but they always come up with a figure, so that makes it easier. So we work backwards and we suggest materials and concepts that only fit into their budget. And of course, there are, sometimes on site there are things that nobody can predict. That's where the costs go up. But apart from that, clients are more educated at this point in time. And I think the whole material study, the sourcing trips and everything really helps because they have a first-hand experience of what everything costs like now.
That's an important point. When she spoke about educating the clients, right? I think that is something which I feel people have to be well informed of. Because when they come for an interaction or a discussion, sometimes we end up having conversation on two different dimensions which doesn't intersect at any point.
And most times when you're just having a conversation with them, having them not seen what the product is or costs like, I mean, they obviously feel like you're charging them a premium or,
The thing is, with respect to the internet,
Right.
which one of you mentioned, there is a lot of misinformation which is going to them.
Yeah. So there's always somebody to offer the product for a much lesser price, but most clients are educated at this point to understand why it's charged so much because it looks like that, but the quality-wise, it's not necessarily.
But then again, like there are different ranges. So I think the more one would be interesting is key when let's say you have one certain same element component which are in different ranges, and then you have a budget constraint. Where so how do you decide where do you prioritize on the aesthetic and the design versus where do you prioritize the material cost, like the cost of the this one itself. So you will compromise here if you spend more, you will compromise somewhere else. It's a balance, right? So how does that? Like, what is your what's your steps that you would generally look at?
I think initially we need to jot down all their requirement list because that's a priority for the clients. So then we go backwards to aesthetics. So then we get into customization, like Rachna pointed. We get into customization where we're using slightly lesser range of products, cost-wise, but we're accentuating them with, using one expensive material versus one another, which is, local or reasonable and stuff. So you blend two things together, so you accentuate the whole feel of the customized product. I think that's one way we go about.
I think I share a similar system when it comes to how I deal with a certain project. So for me, I'm in this debate of aesthetics versus economics, I'm kind of for the aesthetics parts of it. So I'll get to how that is. But like Apeksha said, I think I start essentially with the economics in play. So a client would come with a certain amount of budget. So that creates a certain framework within which we have to work. And so that also, and like she pointed out, some clients come with a bigger set of requirements, but then they don't really have that sort of a budget. So that automatically kind of dictates a certain material palette. It defines a certain, economy defines a material palette. But at the same time, my point is design actually is never influenced by that particular aspect. It only defines the material palette. But what we do with those material palettes is what creates aesthetic. And when I say aesthetics, the way I look at aesthetics is not just the visual aspect of it, but as an antonym to anesthetic, or in extension, anesthesia. What does anesthesia do? It basically numbs you out. But aesthetics is the opposite of that. It makes you feel something in a certain space. It could be light, could be through ventilation, could be the volume of the space, the tactileness of a certain material that you feel on your hands or the foot, which for me is never defined through the economics part of design. That is not to say that economics does not play a part in our process, but for me, I feel like there's a very clear line between how we deal with aesthetics and the economics. The economics is what we do to execute a certain building, like the design. But when we start it in our drawing boards, it's about how we want our clients to feel and what they are probably looking for. Of course, it depends on what the project is.
The design process is separated from the execution of what it would cost in terms of to build it.
It's not completely separated, but yeah.
In terms of like, it doesn't cost more to design a better space, is what you're saying.
Is what I'm saying. Yes, exactly.
It doesn't cost more. It just takes this one. I think that is one thing. And from there to one of the points which you mentioned earlier about the craftsmanship. So I think in that is something which we can look at in two ways, which is design doesn't take more in terms of material cost, but it takes in terms of an architect's time and the practice or the office, the man hours and all of that.
Yeah.
But there is again, as a business, there is money is taking exchanging hands. There is a certain amount that has to be generated from the project and how that is spent with streamlining, and that brings to the labor. So there is like the cost of construction and there's a cost of execution. Both are two different factors of the same project. So you have one cost of construction which defines, as we has been talking about this one, and the design. Now the design practice, we'll take one thread at a time. The design practice that is there, the cost of design practice, which is how does the office or the practice sustain? If you are not able to generate and circulate the revenue, you won't be able to sustain the practice. So all ideas fall to this one. So how does that continue from there? The practice, Devi.
Okay, so when it comes to practice, and when we get a project and the requirements of the project, so what usually we practice in our studio is like there are few projects through which you can work to get an identity, basically, which you get recognition for. Then there are few projects where the time, as Anirudh mentioned, and the business. Okay, so they both fall into that loop. So I think as an architect who have started, at this stage where it has been very few years, so it is very important to figure out which are the projects which I need to, do it commercially, and which are the projects which I can put some extra time in and then, try to get an identity out of it. It's back.
Soul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, but at the same time, what it makes is when it goes to the soul, as you said, maybe sometimes we take it a bit ease and we try to push the time frame because something is, already supporting you in one way. And on the other hand, the process stays more or less the same, but we are bound by the time, right? So at the end of the day, okay, this is what it is. It could have been better, but we have to stop here for certain reason.
Rachna?
So in my case, most of the times the way I've practiced it is usually I'll start off, where I give the idea to the client that, this is the time that I need to engross in the design. So right from there, I think we take it in a way, we take the considerations what the clients have, and we start working out right at the beginning along with the aesthetics. Because I look at it in a way that I would not want to rework on it if there is any changes or if there is any limit. So that's the way that I look at it. So this in a way, probably initially the time that I take, that's the point where the client will bargain whether you really need so much of time. But this time that I keep right at the beginning, right? So this is where we do the research. This is where we have several discussions with the client, and also the budgeting and all of these things to some extent. To some extent, it happens at the first phase, and this has really worked out well for us. So I wouldn't say that in the process you wouldn't have any changes, but design is something that is instinctive. So that's what we were just discussing. So sometimes there are things from our side or from the client side which will require that change. But the major part of it, there's a strategy that you work out, how a project should happen and what you should look at. So in terms of materiality, it could be, in terms of cost, it would be. So all of these things, discussions are done right at the beginning. So that may take a little time, but at the long run, when you see, You can run a practice, or you can have the construction process that takes over. It's not disturbed any.
So you're streamlining the construction process by reducing the time, hopefully reducing the time there by investing more time over here. How does that work for your time management? Like in general, office gets a certain this one. So do you have other things where you like? Do you take up the responsibility? Strategies? What are this one? Because you're spending more time on the design process, and like what he was saying is there are certain points which are taking for the soul and certain other this, and he was also saying that you take time for the design itself. So in that manner, how does that sustain? How do you look at the sustenance? Because if you take every single project or more and more time, the one way of sustaining is by increasing the cost. So the charges and all that, or is there any other strategies that you've tried out or experimented and failed also? I think that's also a good conversation on what are the experiments we have failed on so that others don't repeat it.
Single, like probably a toilet design or everything. So at this point, I think we know what kind of projects really make us happy and what kind of projects we want to dedicate so much time to. And I think even clients reach out to us only if they are completely sure that, this project can only be visualized by so-and-so architect. And also I think, so initially we take a lot of time for concept development as well, because we actually go back and do our material study first and then incorporate it in our projects. So there's no, assuming what's going to come in your 3D and then we try and find a retrofit that looks like the 3D. So we find it easier to give them more realistic expectations in terms of finding materials, finding lights, flooring and everything, and show them pictures of this is in real, we're not something that we're going to hunt for at a later stage. And, so they get a more realistic visual of what they can expect their entire house to look like, or house, or space, or office, or whatever the space is.
A certain project will demand for it. So, for example, design or aesthetics, definitely is a dream. But the reality is the economic part of it. And some of them, like I said, it depends. Different clients, different priorities. So sometimes it's always good to start off right at the beginning. You give an idea to your client what it's going to be and what they need to expect. They need to be prepared.
Manage expectations.
I think she's right there. And one of the aspects that I've been dealing with, because I tend to work with clients with smaller budgets, and that was my whole intention when I started my practice as well, that it is one of the reasons why it's based in a rural area, because I wanted to bring architecture as an industry. It's not as an industry, but as a sort of service. It is a service. So it is a service that I wanted to bring down to the rural level, like a grassroots level approach. And there, I think it's more tricky because in a more rural context, they're not used to the idea of architects and design and architecture. And to add to that, you talk about the fees of an architect, right? Which we generally charge, which is standardized by the council, doesn't really work at that scale. And so for me there, what I've done is, like Devi rightly suggested, is that we have to kind of moderate our process, right? So we all work with the set scope of work. Like we have like schematic stage, design development stage, and all of that. And I think the way that I have dealt with is how we deal with estimates or economics of space, like the budget. Much in the same sense, I use the same logic to design practice, where if a fee is a certain amount, there are a certain framework that we put down. That, okay, this project is, this is what it's worth to the company as a business. So this is the time we can actually allocate. So actually, in some sense, it helps speed up the design process. I think we also, design can take as long as it needs. It never ends. So in that sense, I feel like having a time constraint helps, because you arrive at a solution faster because there is a requirement for it.
Because you're thinking it as a solution.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is how you look at it as a business, I feel. As soon as, is it worth the time? Or at what cost is one of those things.
How much detailing to be done if you're not going to end up being able to execute that much of detailing?
Correct. So then I think it is the economics in that sense influencing the design process in a positive manner, where you actually tailor your process to the design fee, so the remuneration that has been offered or that is being given. So I think it has a positive impact, in terms of the design process that we take. Yeah.
That's the other thing which I would like to add for this is, sometimes when we talk about aesthetics, so they were talking about, finalizing on the material, doing the research and all in the initial basis. This is my experience when you talked about failure, like the thing which I want to talk about. So usually, we are like, I'm a person basically who is like, okay, go with the flow. So for me, the thing is, when in the site, the thing is building up, I start, relating to many different things. So for me, the material palette is something which I don't freeze upon in the initial go. So for me, I see it in a way where there's a connection between the space where it is telling you what is required, and at that stage, what is the economics my client is playing with, and then go for that bracket. Okay, this is what suits there. So there it gives you a bit of freedom, but then you cannot come to a final number where, okay, the project is going to cost this much. So when you have that freedom, I think it is, for me, in my experience, to go with that flow.
Definitely when you have that freedom, that's when the best product
exactly.
also comes out. But in my case, what I have noticed is, the kind of design that you also produce also matters. So sometimes, there are certain design considerations which needs to have certain consideration right at the beginning. So otherwise, you would think about that point at the mid level of the construction, probably that would cost something more than that would have cost you less right at the beginning. So I think every project in that way is different.
Just to add to that, sorry. Another aspect, in a way, it's not really a solution, but it's something that I use, is the aspect that that architecture is a practice, right? And I suppose it's called a practice because it's literally a practice for us from project to project. And what happens is a lot of these details are tested by us. Like we experiment certain details in a certain project, and it might fail. So you're not going to do that in the next project. But there are a certain set of details that you've developed over a certain years of practice that has worked for you, because you've taken into account a lot of things contextually, in terms of availability, labor, a number of things that we generally deal with. So in that sense, there's also that aspect where you can readily use a solution to a regular problem, like a design problem, that would repeat from project to project, like that we might have seen.
Tried and tested over a period of time to be the optimum.
Yeah. So that, I think, then you are optimizing your design process also. But at the same time, of course, that doesn't mean that we entirely stop design.
Like one of this one is that doctors bury their mistakes, architects grow ivy. That's the problems with practice, that we have to keep doing gardening. That's also, I think, one of the things which we touched upon, the last 2 points which we want to have a conversation on, which was just now touched upon, is the way you look at material as selection as a priority in one stages as you go, and then as you go as a stage wise. So then you come to this dichotomy in the current way the field is practiced is, how do you look at architecture and interiors as do you separate this one, cost factors and design factors, or is it one large project? And if it is one large project, what happens is, again, where do you prioritize? Finishes versus the structure and the volumetrics.
I feel interiors is done for a space where you are looking at a remodeling of it, or change the use of it basically. Okay, like that. But when you are doing certain spaces, especially when it comes to residences or hospitality sector, so I feel the interior is just a branch which is coming out of architecture, because both are dealing with spaces. It is not that interior is dealing something quite different from this. It is both related to spaces. So I think it is a category which is a branch of architecture. So when you talk about spatial design, I think both fall into the same category.
Yeah, that's all. That's what you
Yeah.
you believe that it's a one
Okay,
large
one
encompassing.
large,
So, Apeksha?
Architecture and interiors both go hand in hand. And like Devi said, he plans the interiors once the structures come up, once the economics, he understands the economics of the client.
It's not the interiors, I would say the finishing part of it.
Finishing,
Yeah,
okay,
so
okay.
basically the design actually evolves along with the
Right.
construction of the process. And then when you think of finishing it, so that is when I feel, okay, you can still have a multi-option for the material, which is obviously helping me to express in the same language, like a particular direction, the language direction which I want to express in, but not to finalize on them.
Okay, I think both go hand in hand for me because I look at interiors as a whole because that's the space you're finally going to be using, and it finally has to be a place that the client is completely happy and proud and very feels at peace when he is in. So architecture is something that is a reflection of the interiors of the space is what I think, and also the space. It has to be planned right from the start. The interiors of it has to be planned right from the start because the client finally talks about the interiors. Generally the client is not well versed with how he wants his facade to look like. He usually has references of pictures of the interiors, and he brings up a concept like a Bali themed home or something like that would have caught his eye. So I feel like both of it kind of works together as a whole.
According to me, I agree with what Apeksha just mentioned. Interiors and architecture go hand in hand. And see, interiors is all about the immediate human experience. While if you look into architecture, it's all about the structural.
Yeah. So like it's a shell versus
Exactly.
the finish and what you textural.
We can say architecture is the canvas and
Yeah.
interiors is something that you let it flourish. So basically, it cannot be separate. It has to go hand in hand because you cannot literally have something at the outer and then you enter inside. You enter into some other space. So it has to go hand in hand. And also in terms of again because of the topic we are talking today, the economic part. So when she said thinking about it right at the beginning does make sense to me because sometimes the architectural element. So let's say any functional element. So let it be the staircase or any other functional element that we have which is a part of the architecture can be designed in a very innovative way which will add on to the aesthetics. So in that way we are somewhere maybe we are saving some cost that may add on at the later stages that we would think to finish off things. So these functional elements also can play an important role in enriching the aesthetics of that place.
But you all of you agree on the fact that you envision it as a complete whole package.
Yes.
In that, the works which you do are looking at an interior as part of is a structural element itself, if I'm not mistaken. It's more of the core shell structure itself becoming part of the interiors. So there's no additional addition to it or highlighting separate that structure itself.
Yeah.
So how does that work in terms of your this one? Is there like a separated thinking of what the material finishing should be at the beginning itself, and what's the again cost this one, because we are talking about local craftsmanship and that again is not cheap, unlike most of the belief of how it is. So how does that come in? If there
that actually is one of the reasons. The fact that local craftsmanship or forget local craftsmanship, I think craftsmanship must be paid for in the sense we owe them for that work that they do. So it's always, I feel it's good to spend money on craftsmanship. And because of this belief, that's exactly why I optimize my structures in a way where I sort of make the necessity for let's say the sum of the budget that I keep for interiors versus architecture, I balance it out in a way where it requires less interior budget, but I can spend that amount on certain things which are probably more expensive, which require more resources or money, like the finance.
allocate certain priority elements.
Because I deal, like I said, with budget conscious clients. And the moment we have budget conscious clients, I have to look at optimizing what I can do with the money that they come with, because for them, it's their one home that they're going to build in the next 60 years or something like that. So there, that's what I do, and that's exactly why I tend to use more architectural details to make the space, how do I put it, that it works as a space, because like all of you said, it is hand in hand. Architecture and interior has to go hand in hand, but at the same time, there are aspects of it which overlap with architecture and interiors, and that those sort of aspects is where I kind of push them into the architectural realm, and whatever I can't push, I keep it in the interior. So although the amount I keep in the budget for the interiors is less, I can still work with fewer elements and give better quality interiors. So that's what I try to do with mine.
Thank you. I think that was a wonderful set of questions and thoughts, which I think I will go back and now think about how I run my practice a little. With this, I think we are, any audience, anyone in the space who I have some, whatever has been spoken about, if you have any questions towards the panelists or any thoughts of yours, if you would like to share, I think this is the time now. No questions. This is a wonderful class. Everyone's going to be a topper. Everyone's going to go home and perfectly understood everything. I'm a teacher also, so I know exactly what you guys are thinking over there, most of you. Some of you are there, my students also. Okay. Thank you very much for this wonderful conversation. Thank you, all of you guys. Thank you, Indrajit and Sheraz and the team for enabling this conversation to happen and getting to see different point of views and what the future of design in Mangalore is also going to be. So from my end, thank you very much.
I request all of you all to please stay back on the stage. I request Mr. Indrajit Saoji to please come on the stage and felicitate our speakers. I also like to call Mr. Harish Kamath from Sales Head South A Nexion to please join Mr. Indrajit Saoji in felicitating our dear speakers. Also, please, Mr. Vibhakar from Shuko India, we would like to have you as well on stage in felicitating our speakers. Thank you. So moving forward, I would like to invite Ms. Vismaya from Asian Paints to please further present about the brand and their new vertical.
So, hi again. This is me. Like, you had seen me briefly for about 5 minutes in the morning where I had given you the introduction, but right now I'll be speaking about the brand that is Asian Paints as well. So can we have the presentation, please? As Asian Paints, I think we know this company, even before I joined the company as well. We know the company for paints, right? I think from the tractor emulsions of the world till Royal, we have actually seen the company grow along with the advertisements with Saif Ali Khan and so many other people representing us. Where are we at now? Like, what is happening with Asian Paints right now? We have moved into decor as such. Now, this is a vertical that we are relatively newer in compared to paint, relatively newer in, but we have moved to this particular vertical for a certain reason. Now, as we were working with consumers, we realized that we've got the walls kind of right. Kind of. Not completely, but we were kind of there. Then we said, okay, why don't we do something different with the walls itself? Why don't we try and do something interesting there? And we went into the world of textures, where you have your royal place of the world, you have some interesting textures here and there going on. And we were having a great time with it, to be very honest. So we had AVs, we had people working with us, we had research partners, some of them being architects themselves. And then we realized, as we were talking to architects, because when you're going into nitty-gritties of trying to get into this really sleek royalty of home decor, I would say, which is the architects and interior designer segment, we realized something, that we're doing something on this space, whereas the rest of it is still untapped, it's still untouched. Now, overall, why did you even want to think that way? Why couldn't I have just looked at the walls and stayed with the walls, right? The reason is because we wanted to foray into something called the decorative space. Like we wanted to become a share of space. I think that's what the AV will also talk about in some time. Share of space rather than just a share of walls. Now, this means very simply, this means that we will have to get in touch with architects, understand their pulse, and understand the world of decor in a better, more professional and integrated manner. This means that we had to integrate with architects and learn from them more than anything else, become their partners, work on their projects, understand how they are building things, understand what is lacking currently, rather what is going well and where we have to be, and what is lacking and where we can maybe do something, create a difference. So this is where as a company we decided that the first step towards doing anything at all, towards, not even approaching architects, even before we did that, we decided to change our logo. So it was just a paintbrush initially. We changed it into AP, which is the infinity logo, which means that right now we are limitless. We're not going to limit ourselves to the walls and paints. We're going to try and do as much as we can in the space of decor. So when this conversation started coming up, and we started discussing with architects as such, they became a research partner, right? We started talking to them, started understanding their TG, understanding their clients, understanding their aesthetic sense. We understood what platforms they are in, what they're excited about, what interests them as people, more than just professionals. And we went on and on with this research, and naturally, we realized that we had a lot to learn and that we're not going to get anywhere unless and until we become your sole partners. Something that is much more than just a company that's offering products, but we had to become something much more integral to this equation, this relationship, right? Now, this presentation shows you a really abstract of whatever we are in right now. All of which you can see, most of which you can see. Maybe a kitchen I can't show you in this square feet, so I apologize for that. I really wanted to. But I've given you a bathroom so that I could do that. But I made a house here, for instance, that depicts most of what we have here. It has been 15 years of struggle to get to this particular place. Struggle in the sense it's a great learning for us. We love to struggle as Asian Paints, and we love to struggle as Decor Pro. And on that struggle, we have come to a really beautiful journey right now, wherein we are connected to 7,000 plus architects who are building with us year by year, continuously in most of their projects. At least 6 projects a year we get from all of these 7,000 architects. And that is something that I'm very proud and humbled to really say, that we have been able to establish this after years of working with this particular target segment. How did we get here? It's basically because of the products, of course. And as the product company, the company that started off as a product company, we still believe in the roots of what we are offering. The offering is what is our highlight. The service is like our gratitude to the offering, right? Can we please move to the next? Yeah, please present the AV, where our CEO will be presenting to you.
Since Asian Paints' foray into home decor, Beautiful Homes has become the largest integrated home products and services player in India, providing daily inspiration, beautiful products, and interior design services.
For Asian Paints, it was a natural extension to get into the area of home decor. We also wanted to extend the legacy of Asian Paints of Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai and reach the Indian consumer in a true way.
Next slide, please. Okay, so now we've seen the products and we've seen the story behind this. Now, what is the point of coming to this particular place and putting up the stall that we have? Is it to showcase the products? Is that what we're going to do? No, there's a second agenda to this. The second agenda is that me included, and everybody that's here from Asian Paints today, is a part of a vertical called Decor Pro, right? Decor is us and Pro is you. So that's why we are called Decor Pro. Now, what we are offering is that we want your dreams to come alive. And that's our only operation. That's our only job, in fact. And that's our only target, whatever we have said. It's just that whatever an architect needs, whatever an architect requires, Asian Paints should be able to deliver. That's the only tagline that we have. Now, the first part of the conversation that I started with this is just that architects and interior designers, this is all our target is. We don't speak directly to a consumer. We don't even speak directly to the contractors that the architects work with. We go directly to the architects and then we route the interest based on what the architects want. Now, how does this help you? How does the system work, right? You as a company will be assigned a dedicated official, just one particular person, right? Every requirement of yours, whether it is wallpaper, bath, sleek, whatever it is, sleek as in the kitchen, whatever it is, small to big. Right now we are in home decor also, so we have decor items as well. That one person is your solution to everything. That person's responsibility is to get that product to your site. That person's responsibility to get the range to your table so that you are able to select, you are able to brainstorm and understand what's required for that particular site. Now, this entails a lot of things. So we have a huge manpower right now. We have increased our manpower from about 150 to about 200, 250 plus in the country. We have shrunk our base. We had 100 cities basically initially. Now we are at 45, Mangaluru being one of those cities. So we have shrunk our base, increased our manpower so that we can reach every single architect. There's a dedicated resource handling fewer architects and understanding them in a better way. Right? Now in this list, what do you get out of this particular person? Is it just that they're going to come and throw collaterals at you? Of course not. What we're going to do is, collaterals being one of them, we will link you to whoever will make that finish happen, make that wallpaper happen for your house. That can be dealers, that can be contractors, that can be other service partners. It does not matter. Plumbers, for bath, for example, carpenters. We've got a very network of all of these people that is literally at your disposal. So we're bringing this entire giant to you. So it's just at your table. We're giving you every access to all the collaterals that we have as well. So it'll be at your table. We will come and deliver it to you. You will not have to lift a finger. We come and deliver it to you. If you want any panelings, we will do that for you. The panels that you see here right now in our particular stall as well, you can get a panel like that at your doorstep at any time. Right? That is the level of supply chain that we have created for this particular community. What else have we done as Decor Pro? Are we now just a servicing channel? Whatever products are there, are we giving that to the architects? Is that what it is? No. We have made products that are available only to architects and interior designers. Most of that you see here is only available through this TG. A normal retailer will not be able to build it at all. This product has been developed after years and years of intensive research by certain brand teams with architects specifically, with 2-3 architects as such, right? After so much of effort and thought, we have come up with this entire set of products that are only available for architects. So we go to that extent as well. Now, all of this sounds great. Now, what more do you get? Can you please go to the next slide? Okay. Now, please go to the next slide. Yeah. From 2012, this parallel research, this parallel servicing, and this parallel product knowledge has been growing with us. Right now, we are at a place where we can even do your entire house, basically. We are a service itself. So we have a service wing, which is called Beautiful Home Services, wherein the idea and the drawings, and you are basically the master, and we are your general contractors. So we've gone to that extent that I think architects require this, that it's not enough that we are giving them solutions to the products that they're looking at. We need to give them execution solution as well, right? If I give you this, it looks pretty, but who will execute that? And I need to give you that confidence that it can happen, right? So we have actually taken the plunge and we have started this service as well, wherein you can do the entire design and we'll be there as your servicing partner too, like servicing for the walls and everything. So we are literally going to be your contractors as well. So we'll start with servicing the understanding of architects and going towards servicing the house itself. So this is where we have come up right now. This is where Asian Paints is. Can we go to the next slide, please? Overall, what do you get with respect to understanding who we are and how we can collaborate immediately, right? What will you get immediately at the top of your hand? First is access to all of our plugins. I think if you had seen the AV also, you had seen a small snippet of someone just taking a chair and placing it somewhere, right? Every product that you see here is already there as a plugin with us, and all those plugins are available at a click, basically. We will come to your office and we will install it at your system itself for free, no cost, of course. I think someone asked us if we charge you for this service. We don't charge you for anything. It's just the products that you'll have to pay for, unfortunately. But we don't charge you for the service. But the point is that we have gone to the end. So this is not about profit. It's about making it much better, much bigger, trying to see if we can do more as such. And in this tirist to do better for this community, we are even making collaterals that are specific only to architects, that nobody else can build. Like these are collaterals that only you will get from Asian Paints, curated with thought and research from an architect segment that we have onboarded as such. And we make collaterals that only you will get at your place, at your time. It will not be available to the general audience as well. So we've come to that particular level. And the event that you see here right now, we might even make it something bigger. We might tomorrow even get you an apartment here where we will see this entire thing. And you can just go there and you had maybe 5 minutes of time at my stall. You might have half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 day, 2 days, however much you want. You can probably go and see my event for that long. We are coming up with certain things wherein, we are making the experience for you a lot better. And this tourist, we even have a master's loyalty program. And this is not like anything else. It has been curated through a lot of research from the community, from outside community, from international architects as well. We are looking at something interesting and exciting. It's very sad to call it a loyalty program. It's probably an engagement program, I would say, wherein once this happens, like for example, this time, a set of architects, 80 people, were taken to Copenhagen, to the festival at Copenhagen for 3 days, and we had curated the entire experience for them. We took them to that canal, we had a gala night, and then we had so many different things. You were able to take the cuisine, as such, the entire furniture festival that was going on. Everybody had a ball of a time, and these architects actually called us back and told us that we are looking forward to the next trip. And in fact, they have given us suggestions as to where they want to go and which festivals they want to see next. So this is where we are at. And the whole point of us being here tonight is to engage with you and let you know that we are here for you. And whatever you need and however we can grow together, we are just willing to learn from you, and we want that opportunity and we want it more. So it's not just a one-day affair. When you give us your cards at this event, we will definitely, you will not hear it from us, you'll not hear the end of it. Basically, we'll call you and we'll ensure that we are going to be your partners and that we will do anything that it takes to make your experience with decor much better. Thank you so much. This is Vismaya from Asian Paints. I would love to see you all at my stall. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vismaya. That was a brilliant, and a very intriguing presentation that we saw right now. That was indeed a very beautiful AV. And further moving, I would like to call upon Mr. Harish Kamath, Sales Head South A from Nexian, to kindly come on stage and enlighten us more about the brand. Can you please have a huge round of applause?
We'll start with the presenter. First of all, I thank you and welcome to my presentation. And thank you for making this Nexion brand a super premium brand in the country in the very short span of time. So the first slide, please. So Nexion International Private Limited is an Indo-Italian JV, joint venture company, established in 2014, and the actual production of tiles started in 2016. So we are surface innovators in the premium segment, offering Italian style and quality. As you know, we do a lot of R&D on the surfaces to give multiple finishes, multiple sizes, multiple colors. And Nexion is focused on sintered slabs using new generation press technology and advanced digital printing. So what is this sintering? Sintering is basically a high pressure, high temperature technology where the raw materials are subjected to the very high pressure to the tune of around 44,000 metric tons and then fired at more than 1200 degrees centigrade. That is why we reduce the porosity. It is to a very negligible extent, and the water absorption goes below 0.08%. The material becomes almost inert and hence maintenance free. And the limitation for size and thickness vanishes. That is why there is no restriction for producing large format slabs, and the thickness remains constant irrespective of the sizes. And about Nexion, our design development office as well as the marketing office is in Italy, and our head office is in Ahmedabad, and manufacturing facility is in Gujarat, Morbi. We have design labs in major cities like Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, and Chandigarh and Cochin. And in Mangalore, we have got exclusive display at 3 places, our dealers. One is Sriram Sanitary, Atelier Designs, and MS Pi. These are the pictures of our design labs. And you can see we tried to display the maximum available size, that is 4 feet by 8 feet. And then we have developed a matrix also, product matrix. And the brand personality, as you know, we inspired from the famous Vitruvian Man by Da Vinci, which talks about geometry of perfect proportion. I think you all know about this, which you use in your designing also, the golden ratio. And if you see our logo, all the letters are there in that particular logo. So our architectural surface collections are broadly categorized into 4 categories. That is marble. We have got 26 marbles as of now. Under concrete, we have got endless, which replicates the exposed concrete, ambient, the plastered concrete, then terrellino, that is the linen imprint design, and terracotta. Apart from that, in stone, we have got runa, pietra, and lithic. In wood, we have got coni wood and essence. So what is our core strength? When you see our marbles, it has got that mirror-like reflection quality. This is possible by using dry granular technology, which enhances products' color nuisance, details, and wave-free visual impact. And Nexion was awarded with the Red Dot Design Award for its 3D textured surfaces that can be used to create chiaroscuro light effects, that is light and dark light effects. We offer up to 8 surface options which may be suitably used according to the context and application to find the right solution for any kind of surfaces. So here, when it comes to Nexion marble, we try to compare with the Italian marbles. So you can see the images, the reflection. So in polished, it is more softer, and here it is more clear and sharper. And second, after a few years of usage, natural marbles, it will develop an orange peel effect, because of which you can see it needs a polishing, whereas our tiles does not need this polishing because it is more resistant to stains and acids, and it is more durable. Here the comparison is with the tile with any other marble designs. So you can see the visual comfort is far, far better as compared to the other tiles. It is like a mirror-like reflection. There is no waviness, no distortion. So coming to the surface revolution, we offer up to 8 surface finishes with aesthetic impact and technical performance fit for indoor and outdoor applications, like full lapato matte. If the same marble, if you want to go with the one single marble for the entire project, you can use different finishes for the particular project. So this is like why the dimensions, as you know, we have got multiple sizes, and each size will have the caliber of 8. So this will help you to mix and match multiple sizes by leaving a spacer of 2 mm in between. Then end to end there will be a perfect layout. Other important point is R rating. R is a ramp value. So what kind of tiles to recommend to what kind of application. So all our matte collections are R10 in terms of slip resistance, and it has got a direct impact on the DCOF, that is dynamic coefficient of friction. So you can see as the R value increases, even the DCOF value will also increase. And we have R11 and R12 which can be made available on request. Because see, R11 generally are recommended for swimming pool deck areas or senior bathrooms, even hospital bathrooms. And R12 where generally in 5-star hotels where there is a usage of oil and grease, especially in the kitchens, flooring kitchens, generally R12 is recommended. So coming to the Nexion faces, the randomness. In a size of 4 feet by 8 feet, 120 to 40, there are 4 faces to give the natural variation of the marble. So as the size decreases, you can see the faces will increase. Next slide, please. In the size of 120, there are around 11 faces, and when it is 60-120, there are around 20 faces. So what is our formula for product innovation? So we believe that our work is not to use digital technology just to copy things and make tiles. Our vision is to create new realities, artificial or inspired by nature, that may not exist in nature, but nature could have made it. So we pursue this vision through the knowledge, creativity and method of our diverse and culturally rich Italian and Indian team. So you can see the modern ceramics, it is a digitally enabled replica of natural materials by using high resolution cameras, then digital printing machines, new generation ink and glaze. You can just copy. So this is you can see the picture of apple. It is the same apple, but taken by 2 different photographers, right? So the left one is amateur photography, which is even it is high quality, but the second one looks more, it is more of a creative. So what is our process of industrial design? So generally our designers, they travel around the world, they leave the world, look for inspiration, then frame the creative space and sketch ideas, basically getting inspired. And then they look for design elements. Then they do alteration, combinations, and they explore design options and make prototypes. And this is sent to the plant, factory, for the manufacturing. And the manufacturer, we try to manufacture the same prototype, and it is again sent back to the designer, and after 4 to 5 trial rounds, and finally we'll freeze the design and we'll start a large scale production. Each collection will take around 8 to 10 months. So I will give you an example of black onyx, something we wanted to develop a marble in black onyx which is not available in nature as such. You find different. So it is a combination of 4 different marbles. So the designers first started with green onyx, pink onyx and agate marble. So and they tried to change the color to the black as a first step because they wanted to develop something in black. And they selected few elements and something like this they got it in the first step. Then they found something is missing. They added one more marble called honey onyx. Next slide please. And they tried to do some modifications. And finally we have arrived at this black onyx which is displayed. You please have a look at our booth. So art as a metaphor. So art, how we use this art in our designing process. So as you know, when we look at the surfaces, our visual perception, the whole, is the sum of an infinite number of details whose harmony creates a sense of beauty. I will illustrate this with a small video clip. Please, next slide please. You can see this. This is exhibited in Venice Biennale in 2022 by Ikshan Adams, the artist. So our commitment is to go beyond the ordinary and inspire. Because if you see our latest Terralino collections, the architect from Gujarat, this is featured in the Vogue India magazine. He said that inspiration for the house came from a recently launched collection tiles by a flooring company. So this is a great moment for us when the architect gets inspired from our collection. And there are 9 colors. Each color will go with all the other 8. That is the beauty of this Terralino collection. It's basically linen imprint design on the tile. Terra is earth and linen is the fabric. And you can create infinite combinations using this Terralino. Like this even for floor, wall. Technical support. We do give technical support by using the right adhesives, right this leveling tools and cutting tools also. So based on your recommendation, few of architects during my last meeting, they have suggested us to do a training program for their contractors and layers, and very soon we are planning to organize the same. I request you to please submit the names to our local team so that we are planning to have it very soon in Mangaluru. And we are there in social media. Please follow us. And thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience and cooperation. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Harish Kamath for a very good presentation for Nexion. So now, for the much-awaited Doyens panel, we all have been waiting for. First of all, I'd like to introduce our dear moderator and also the one who has been the curator of the event, Mr. Venkatesh Pai. Sir, I request you to please come on stage and introduce and invite the other speakers as well for the Doyens panel.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is still listening to the stage. Okay, we'll go to have the second session. The first session was all the new gen, the new architects. The second gen is what they call the Doyens. So I would like to welcome, we're very excited to be here, and I'd like to welcome the panelists here. I would request all of the panelists, the very elegant Manjari Saldana, please. Gulshan Roy. Supreet Alwa, the topic of the day, which is aesthetics versus economics. Let me start with introducing my panel first. Let me start with Manjari. Manjari Saldana is an associate architect in Saldana & Associates. and she has more than 25 years of experience. And I don't think there is any street in Mangalore that you can go to where there's an apartment which is not hers. So her husband Praveen is a very good friend of ours, and between them they have dotted the whole of Mangalore with apartments. And I thought they were good at apartments. Then they started building houses, and they became fantastic at that. So next we have Gulshan Roy. Gulshan Roy is from my college, MIT, 1997. He passed out of college. He's dynamic, and he travels. He travels all over the world and collects experiences. He understands culture. He develops his skill sets. He's still, on a daily basis, he's still studying. A few years back, I was so happy to get out of college and stop studying. This guy goes and keeps studying new things. So it's fantastic, and he uses that in his design. So there's so much of the culture that he's absorbing all around, and he's pushing it into his designs. So the very dynamic, the very upgraded version of Gulshan, and keeps getting younger every year.
Thank you, Venki.
Yeah.
I must butt in here. Venki promised a lot of laughter. So, I mean, he started off with making me the butt of the jokes. Thank you, Venki.
That's no joke. I'm not joking. Well, let me come to Colin. Colin Pinto has got this company called Concept Evolve. It's a beautiful firm. And he has only one belief, that change is constant. So it's constantly changing. His designs are changing. His concepts, his ideas are changing. And he doesn't like to stay in one place. So he's constantly evolving his designs. That's why the name Concept Evolve suits so well.
Thanks, Venki.
And he loves small sites. And he loves the challenge of small sites and working in small things and trying to get the most out of it. We all get irritated with too small a site, but he loves it. So that's Colin for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. It's quite fun.
Then we have Supreet. I don't know what to say because I asked Supreet for his introduction and he said, no, I'm not giving it. So he's too well known. So Supreet Alva is Alva Associates. His buildings have been, all the empty spaces left by her, he filled. So he's got so many buildings in town. And over the years, the repertoire of buildings is huge. Everything from apartments, homes, farmhouses.
Hey, Venki, one thing. His dad was also an architect, and we are sitting in one of his dad's building site now.
See? So I'm not joking, right? See? Okay, so Supreet now is just taken over as the chairman of the Indian Institute of Architects. So all your architects, please be happy that we have a boss over here.
Thank you, Venki.
Welcome. Well, as you said before, this is a great topic. I explained to you how we understood this particular topic, and we said, what is this aesthetics versus economics? And as I spoke to this very team, there's another team member who is not your Sanath. He was detained somewhere else. And we took a lot of input and we came up with a set of questions and said, okay, let's divide this into 4 different aspects. So, yes. So let's divide into 4 different aspects and we will discuss these questions. So I've got a couple of questions. A lot of the discussion has already been had by the group before us. So I do not want to again repeat the same things all over again. So let me start with the topic about how, listen, now when we talk about economics and aesthetics in economics, the question is, what are we talking about? We're talking about, is it right to spend so much on big buildings? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about how do we handle getting good aesthetics into our buildings without spending too much money? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about how do we manage our offices of trying to be artistic and yet run our office commercially. So if you really go deep into the topic, there are so many aspects to the same thing. So we decided to speak on 4 of the aspects. And we'll start with Rachna spoke about the Bilbao Museum. Now you know that Bilbao Museum built by Frank Gehry, I think it cost them $89 to $90 million. The same building could have been built in $20 million. But he did spend 4 times that amount, 4.5 times that amount to create an icon. So I would really wonder, like Zaha did. She spends whatever building you go to her with. If somebody comes and says, Adu 3,000 rupees per square foot, Zaha is saying, Adu 50,000 rupees per square foot. So it goes to some other level. So the real question is, we're spending so much on iconic buildings. Is the spend worth it? I'll start with Gulshan. What do you think, Gulshan?
First of all, these iconic buildings, my take on it is like it puts that place in a world map. Okay, it creates a tourist attraction because of which the economy of the place grows. So indirectly, it becomes an economic multiplier, the iconic buildings. It gives every industry a growth. Let it be hospitality, tourism. So I think iconic building on that aspect. But again, spending so much on the iconic buildings is again, I think it's a, what do you say, depending on the, I think it's worth it, according to me.
What do you think, Manjari?
Because it is an economic multiplier.
Yeah, I think I agree with Gulshan. So if you have somebody who wants to put up an iconic building and change the face of the earth, why not? He's got the money, he's got the budget. I think architecture is akin to any piece of art. If somebody wants to buy a good piece of art, he'd spend.
You have to pay for it.
You have to pay for it, and you'd love it. You know that's what you're getting. You're paying for what you want. So I think an iconic piece of architecture should be in parallel with the same
True,
thing.
because iconic buildings have been coming up over the years. If you look at the Sphinx or the Taj Mahal or any of these...
But Venki, is it practical? The question is it practical? Most of these buildings
Practical
that
to
we
whom?
talk, I mean, are these buildings practical in a certain way? I mean, in terms of aesthetics also, if we, the museum that
The
we're
Bilbao
talking-
Museum works very well.
No, but it is from a, there are issues with the building also. Like for example, the surface has already started, there's been issues with the surface due to the coating that was done on top of that. Practicality, it has started forming coating. So you spend so much of money, finally when you go there and see it, it's going to be a big rusty bucket, you're going to think about it. I mean, for the practical man by himself. Let's take the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower, wow, it's so great. But if you go there, it's actually a rusty old tower. That's the facts of matter.
But Eiffel Tower put Paris on the map.
Yeah.
Today you ask anybody here, Paris
is on the map. Yeah,
give me a word association, it's Eiffel Tower.
But is it practical? The restaurant on the top.
Iconic tower like Paris has lived its life now. But it may continue in a different way with a different set of materials or coating which may go into it and it may still survive. But it went on for a long time. It became an icon.
And another thing is about Eiffel. It happened now. It's now with the later part of the industrial revolution that all these problems have come for the Eiffel Tower. It's not an old issue. It's a new age issue. But this is being the museum by Frank Gehry. It's a later new age issue. I mean, they should have thought about that before thinking about it. I mean, so practicality has to be thought.
So what's the point? Are you saying they should not have built it, or they should not have built it so expensive?
Not so expensive. I mean, you could have got it right.
Bilbao today is a city which people are traveling, and the whole economy of the place is changed because of that one building. So how can you say that it's not?
I want to add to that. Empire State was built when there was a great recession. So, the entire economy took off when the building started happening. So, these things, you can't look at it in a scope of just the economics part of it. That building has to come to...
They are the agree. That's an iconic building. It's worked well economically for the city, and it's also a practical building. It's still surviving so many years on.
Agreed, Gulshan.
No, same with the city of Hamburg. The Helfi, that Philharmonic building, it started with a budget of 240 million euros, ended up with 870 million euros. But it's an iconic building now. Like it has what do you say, luxurious apartments, the concert hall, plus some restaurants, cafes, and everything. But it has put Hamburg again in a global map, where even Mont Blanc is from Hamburg, and right now there are so many special editions coming from Mont Blanc, with this Philharmonic building, and there's so much of tourist attraction there just to see the building, designed by Herzog de Meuron.
I just want to, if our Taj Mahal, our own Taj Mahal, if somebody would have gone for the lowest tenderer, would you think the Taj Mahal would have been built that way?
There was one. Let's not talk about contractors here, please.
No, basically, the money part, the economics part of it.
There is the poor man's version, Aurangzeb's wife's building.
But listen, I think both of you have made a point. I know that iconic buildings will serve their purpose, but I'm saying, is it worth the spend? But I'm saying this is 2023, and today, what are we worried about? We are worried about sustainability. We are worried about recycling. We are talking about reduce, recycle, reuse. We are talking about wastage. We are talking about trying to be more economical in every way. We are talking about the thousands of children suffering in Africa and world peace and green peace and environment. So there's so much of sustainability talk that goes on. I'm the co-chairman of IGBC, Green Building. So we're trying to push the green building agenda into all these beautiful minds over here, because we want people to think more, conserve more, and look at, because the resources in this planet are decreasing. That is the new concern that we're coming to. I really thought one of you guys would have picked up that as the reason why we shouldn't spend so much. You didn't. Why?
Because being sustainable, you could be expensive by being sustainable also. You could put up an iconic building and be sustainable about it. So we're not glossing over the fact that we do need to be sustainable. It is a fact. It is a responsibility of every architect in this gathering and everywhere, because every structure that we are building today is going to last generations. And I think in view of our responsibility for the next generation, we need to conserve what our resources are. But that still does not, take away the fact that you could still have an iconic building. You could be sustainable about it, but you could still put up an iconic building.
If you ask me, the being sustainable itself is a cost. It comes with a cost.
Is it really?
Yes.
But cost, like I said that time, cheap and best. Cheap today, but expensive in the long run. Sustainable is expensive today, but cheap in the long run. Isn't it?
Yes.
Then
I agree with you. That's what I'm telling you. It comes with a cost. So you can't look at economics only when you are building. So if you are looking at sustainability, that is going to cost you.
Yeah, but then what about issues like, suppose, okay, I'm using Shuko, a brilliant material, and then you have other options in aluminium, which are much cheaper.
So
what do you choose?
Somebody from Shuko has to answer that, I think.
Yeah, so here comes a thing, in some of my projects where I use Shuko.
By the way, just to interrupt, sorry, I would prefer Shuko anytime. But the clients sometimes don't agree.
Not the cheap aluminium. Not the cheap aluminium.
No, again, when it comes to economics part of it, okay, we all love Shuko. We are used in most of my projects. But there is certain times we need to balance the economics. And that time, I tell my vendor, Raj, okay, now we need to balance Shuko and the others. So he gives me an option. Okay, we'll use Shuko here. The rest, the other Dromal sections we'll put behind.
No, he did tell me that also. He has told me that also. But that's how you balance it.
No, this is how we can, have that, even the aesthetics also
coming back
solved, and the economics also in place.
Coming back to what Venki was talking
Yeah,
about.
the sustainable, yeah.
Part. Yeah, it was nice when Dean had come years back. I mean, we all had attended the talk. I mean, I think Manjari and all you had organized that talk. When Dean had come and Dean explained that, sustainable architecture is very important, but it's not going to be cheap. The cheapness comes in the long-term aspect of the entire...
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only way it works out. For me,
The
it's more
initial cost is
more. We have to look and balance out between economics and practicality of the product also. I mean, we have to look at that. Today, UPVC windows, I used to use it once upon a time, but today, because of sustainability, I don't use it anymore. I don't recommend it so much.
UPVC windows are not sustainable?
How do you...
Plastic, they are not.
How do you recycle plastic?
That's one is plastic, the inside reinforcement is MS.
Metal. Yeah. Okay. While we are talking about this iconic buildings, if you really look at what makes it iconic, what Frank Gehry spent on is to make the building look beautiful. Okay, it's a sort of an ornamentation that it's a new modern ornamentation done to a building. At one time there was this ornamentation which is done, which was heavy carvings and by the way, all of us what we do is modern architecture. The kind of buildings that we're all doing now is what we call as modern architecture, right? It is modernism. Modernism came in what way? It was a rebellion against the too much of art and too much of decor. Unfortunately, I love Art Nouveau. It killed Art Nouveau, and Art Deco too, and modernism came in. And modernism said, be true to the material you're using. And that became the mantra. And for so many years, whether we are looking at Le Corbusier or whether we're looking at Louis Kahn, they said, be true to the material you're using, and that's what the architecture that we are using today.
But doesn't it also depend on what our client wants? I mean, each client has a different requirement. Shouldn't we be catering to each client?
Exactly. So
I mean, here you're talking about a specific style that you have to follow. Like you spoke about Corbusier, you spoke about Louis Kahn and all. They had a specific style, they had a specific thing. But I think they only catered to a specific thought process. As architects, aren't we supposed to cater to everything? I mean, look and change as per what the client requires. Why are we so stuck up on doing, okay, this is what I want? That's where I say change is always constant. I mean, if a client comes and says, I want a very traditional house.
That's what you mean by change is always constant.
Okay, so that's how you work. I mean, you change with every client's requirements. In that, you try to get the economics right. So that aspect has to come into play.
Agreed. All of us know that without a client, we are out of business. And without the client's money, he doesn't have a project. So the money has to be there. Agreed. So each of us, when we are doing, and this is not only each of us here, each of you too. All of us face the same thing, and all of you, the previous panel also discussed it quite a bit. When the client comes and says, I want something, and you have to work within a budget, and the client always wants something more than the budget. If you're able to give something for 100 rupees, the client wants that 120 rupees thing. And if you want 120, she wants the 200 rupee thing. So that's always the case. So all of us have this, face this issue in interiors more than buildings, I suppose. Setting a budget for a project, but the client wants more. And so there is a balance which you have to create. Now, so my next question comes from there. We know that any project needs money to be built. The question is how much? So how do you handle the issue of aesthetics versus economics with your clients? Does form still follow function, or does it follow a budget now? So each of you must be having a formula how you deal. So all you guys are big architects handling so many clients. What's your formula?
Form follows function. I'll stick with that.
Well, I'll come to that later, but let's start with Gulshan, because he does a lot of spend for his clients.
It's case to case, because most of the time definitely form follows function, and economics definitely sometimes plays a big role. Means it goes over budget, not under budget.
No, Gulshan, you have to give us a magic formula how you handle your clients. And how you manage to make them spend so much? There must be something.
I don't know. Probably is the brand. Yeah.
Does brand have a value in Mangalore too?
Yeah, definitely. Because I've got clients who like they want Armani or they want Versace.
That's why
You know,
they
they want stitches.
Yeah, actually, I thought probably run out of money buying some or tone jeans. But it's a brand. No, but I would really like to know, this client wanting something and you having to work out a budget and trying to give a good design. And sometimes you come up with something and you make a beautiful presentation and the client says, no, can't you do this, can't you do this? No, it'll cost more. No, you have to work in the same budget. And you go back to the drawing board and this, how many times? There's one particular client, my architects are here. We have done one house, maybe 3 bedrooms, so 14 times here. 14 times you done it just to make sure that, because he always comes up with Pinterest and something else to show something that he wants. Now, but the point is, how is it that you work that? Each of Gulshan's formula is, of course, a different set altogether. But what is the formula you work with your clients?
So, unfortunately, we don't have clients as high profile as Gulshan's. Ours is a mixed bag. So we do work with a lot of institutional clients along with, builders and smaller private residences. But I think for me and for us as a practice, a good project has never necessarily mean high spending and high value and high budgets. I emphasize that. I think Rachna and I think even Apeksha mentioned that we discuss with our clients early on what they are looking for, what their aspirations are, and we work well within that budget. I think part of the challenge is to give them what they want in terms of space, in terms of what you're creating with volumes and spaces rather than the finishes that they're giving them. Because most of the budget goes in the finishing. So you could do something which is a space that somebody can enjoy, your clients will enjoy and is what they're looking for, with a cheaper product. Not necessarily you need to slap on a cladding material or something very, very expensive. So I firmly believe that I don't need a big budget to create good architecture. That's my take on it.
Basically, like Gulshan told you, that clients do come with different requirements. So, some of them are very passionate about their, end product. So they get involved in every stage and they are well versed with most of the materials and other things about design through Pinterest or, now Pinterest is the only thing which, most of them follow. But basically, they are well versed with what they want and they are very sure and they are ready to spend. So such clients, normally we also go along with them, work with them, give them what they want. But some clients are just requirement based. They want a house, that's it. They come with a very brief. So basically we work on that brief and give them what we think is best available.
No, the question here,
yeah.
The question here is, how do you manage budget? See, we're talking not in ideal situation, I agree. A client comes, I want this, you give that, he's happy, matter close. But no, here we're talking about client wants
Yeah,
more.
The
matter of money is always a problem where we have to haggle with the clients because we want to give something more, looks better, he's not willing for the price. Or sometimes we want to give something less, but he's saying, no, give him something more. So very rarely does it come equal.
No, that's what.
So
See, one client is ready to spend anything on what his wants are. The other one is limited in his budget, so we work around that budget and give him what he wants. So that's how we do.
For me, it's either the client's budget. I ask them straight up, what's your budget? And I tell them, don't lie. I tell them, don't lie. Because the drawback in that is they'll come.
They normally...
Yeah, they do lie a lot, the clients know that. So they say a figure. Okay, let's say they say 10 lakhs is the figure. So I usually tell them, okay, let's work with 9 lakhs. If there's any escalation, it will be that. They'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. Drawback comes later on when they're doing the job. We design and we plan, okay, it's going to be UPVC windows, okay, per se. And when the work is going on, they'll come and say, No, 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 I want to put wooden windows now. Okay, see, the cost goes up over there. We tell them, no, it's not going to work out. No, no, we'll work it out. But for us, the drawback is our detailing, our time goes up. And it does affect us in a big way because there's a aesthetic form, everything changes according to that. So that becomes a problem. So we beg and plead, don't lie, tell us exactly what's your budget. Let's work from there. Okay, they have big dreams. I mean, clients have big dreams. Let's say our dream house finally. We try to cater to them and however best possible. So please don't lie. You tell us properly, then we'll be able to deliver what is required.
Exactly. So that brings me to my next question, which is, on a daily basis, we handle the aesthetic side as well as the business side of our offices, right? Sometimes for some projects, we even lose money. So an architect has to be a business person. We think we should be an artist. When I joined architecture, I was pretty good in drawing. But my marks in everything else was very bad. So my dad thought, okay, you be an architect. So it was easier for me to be an architect. So the point is, you have to be a business person also. Because you have to run the artistic side of things. You also have to run your office. So now, so an architect, so which is one aspect, as someone mentioned before, is not taught to us in college. The aspect of how to manage your own office, how to manage money, and things like that. So, really speaking, how do you manage that balance between the artistic side of it and the commerce side of it? Because, for example, if I have an apartment building or two, I know that for the next couple of months my salaries are taken care of. So I can go and do some difficult artistic work on another side because bills have to be paid, right? Now there are times, like for example, if you really know, really famous guys like Louis Kahn. Louis Kahn, towards the end of his life, he was so obsessed with design. I don't know if you guys know this. So Louis Kahn got so obsessed with his design. By the time he was towards the end of his life, he was working on projects where he was spending so much time on design alone, he could not execute the projects. And finally, he lost all his money and he died bankrupt. Louis Kahn, the guy who gave us IM, the guy who spoke to the brick and the brick spoke to him, that guy. So it's really sad. Vincent van Gogh, the artist, he died. He actually killed himself and he cut off his ear and went through some bad scene.
You are scaring us, Venki. With all this tale.
But listen,
you have to tell this now.
I have a point to all this. Just close your ears, please. So, Vincent van Gogh died penniless, and he died thinking that he is an artistic failure. So sad, isn't it? Because today, his paintings can buy probably a small district in Kerala or something like that. So it's like that. But now my question is really, there's a line which you draw between artistic work and running an office. So, what do you think? Do you think, let's start with you. No, let's start with, how do you work it out? Because you're doing a lot of artistic work too. Near Kollur, she's doing this small, a client came and said, he's from that place, I think he made a lot of money, so he came back to his village and said, I want to develop this town square into a village square into a nice place, so buses come here, give me shops, give me that, and she's developed a nice, it's a very, very down-to-earth village level project. But it'll take a lot of time, it'll not pay that much. So how do you manage these things?
So it is a mixed bag. So I had to tell you, we do have builder clients as well to tide us over with the economics. But early on in our practice, we did realize we did a lot of work just because we wanted to do work. You work for very less or sometimes work for nothing. But we realized very, very early that never work for free because they don't take you seriously. You will not be respected. So even if it is charging a discounted fee, do charge. But having said that, we do a lot of charity in the sense when we see we've done some houses for the really economically backward people who can't really, who just know what an architect means and wants something, designed. We've done it absolutely free of cost. But at the same time, when we know that somebody is prepared and is financially okay to pay a consultant, we don't shy away from our fee structure. We definitely do collect our fee structure. So, I mean, it's something like if you were to go to a doctor, you can't expect a doctor to treat you for free. It's a similar thing. I don't think architecture can be free in any way.
Business is business.
Sorry?
Business is business.
Business is business. So, we don't shy away from asking for what we want and what we deserve.
In my case, it's been evolved. My earlier part of the career, like I was driven into more artistic, like as you said, I was more concentrating on the artistic part of it, not the business part of it. Then, like meeting, like friends like you all, just started understanding the business part of it. That this is how I should run my, the studio.
You're saying that in a good way, okay?
Okay, this is we always discuss, definitely over a drink, we always discuss architecture and business. So
the business of architecture.
Yeah, business of architecture. So it's been evolved, Then, as you said, like certain projects keep the office running. And certain projects we concentrate more highly on the detailing level and all that. So the other projects feed this project. Yeah.
True. What do you think, Suprit?
I think most of us do that.
For you, all your projects are paying you well.
Hope they do.
No, the problem is sometimes you work on a project for so long and
You bleed.
you bleed. And you work, maybe sometimes the project goes longer and you're not able to charge the client higher. But the project has gone from 1 year project to 2.5 year, 3 year project. And if you really look at the salaries of the guys you have been paying for so long, and the drafting that's going on, and it goes back, or that place probably, as you worked, you found some huge old quarry in that place which has filled up, and foundation details have changed, and the whole design changes. It goes mad. Now there we bleed in our projects. I really think so.
That's
what do you think?
I mean, that's very true. It has happened to us. I mean, numbers change when we start, because in our office we pay a lot of attention to the costing, and we do the estimates. We are very particular about that. So we take that into, keep that in mind when we work. And suddenly these small things crop up. This foundation is on, it's soft soil. We think it's hard strata, half of it is a filled up quarry. As you rightly mentioned, it does happen.
Because our region has got a lot of, used to have these laterite quarries, and then somebody fills it up and sells their property.
And there are some old wells where your column comes. So we don't know. But there are things, these things happen.
So what I'm asking is specifically, just let me finish. What I'm asking specifically is about projects that bleed you. Okay, there are always those projects. So this is what new offices and new architects need to learn. There will always be projects that bleed you. So you have to go through it because you cannot give up a client. You work for the client, you do a good job, but find some other project which is a good earner to pay you back, because you have to balance your office, don't you? Right?
You need a feeder.
Yeah, you need a feeder. Sorry, Colin, tell me.
One thing is we have to look back to how we take architecture, how we learned architecture also. We were never taught about the costing facts and all. I think that is one thing wrong. We should be taught a little bit about accounts and economics in our student days. I have my students here, and I teach in a college, Srinivas College. So what happens is when they do their designs and something really, they're doing something flamboyant. I bite my tongue thinking that, okay, this will cost so much, this column, why is it here, why can't it be here? And then, they're trying to develop a design and a style. For me, then, there's always a pullback, look, boss, it has to be this way, not that way, but I can't, because as per aesthetics...
No, that's the only chance they get to design according
after that, they don't.
After that, all constraints come in. Bylaws, you have other laws, you have in-laws.
The in-laws
lot of things coming in.
No, but
the client's in-laws.
Sometimes you'll get a client, you'll get a project which is so interesting and so challenging that you feel so energized and you don't mind. I mean, you know that you're losing that. You take that project, you're losing money. But somewhere you'll get another project that will always fund that. That's a cycle. It always goes in that cycle. It's a balance, Venki. So somewhere,
But finally, it all depends on us. We are not. Everyone is not a brand like Gullo. Everyone's not a brand like Gullo.
Okay, but listen.
He gets all the big money.
You did mention about we not having been able to learn about costing and things about in our architectural practice. Actually, that's one of the things that we constantly keep discussing about how that when we are in college, we have professional practice and we learn about how basic costing is. We never learn how to run our offices. When I came out, I was not sure where a check has to be signed. So we didn't know how to open bank accounts. And there's a whole lot of stuff that we learn along the way. Within the first year, second year of having come out of college, we learned. So we really hoped that there was this particular course that we could have taken up. So incidentally, I was talking to you about Supreet being Indian Institute of Architects chairman. The IIA Mangalore Manipal Center is actually working on with the Besant Management College to create a short-term course for architects. So if you guys are running having an office and you want to learn a business management program, I think they're planning a 6 hour or 6 hours into 2 sessions course where they teach you everything about business, about avenues, about how to take loans, how to pay your taxes, and all that. So that's a nice program because once the program is ready, I think
it's going to be a condensed course. Architecture or practice.
Any professional can take it up actually. Any professional can take it up. It could be an engineer, an architect, a lawyer. But if you want to run an office, how to get a trade license?
Practice specific.
Stuff like that. So,
basically.
Which basically we don't learn in school. Is something that IIA is working on. So that's actually a nice move that IIA is doing.
I also has to work on how to apply for license. Yeah.
No, definitely we are going to have a workshop on that. Since, now it is automated also. Again, we have a lot of problem with uploading the drawings. So basically, now both ways are being accounted. Like they have this physical thing also as well as the automated version. So anyway, we'll have to work out something on that and, have a workshop basically for the new architects.
Okay. So, this is one question.
We are diverting from the actual.
No, I know, but it's okay. But, and I want to divert one more thing. Okay? Let me just ask you a question. Okay, this is an objective type question. A, B, C, D, 4 answers. You have to tell one of them.
Copy with Karan. Who gets the hand?
No. Each of you get to answer. It's a general question. What I'm asking is, now let's say your client calls you and says, I want to buy a phone. Okay? So there's this Samsung phone, which is the Super Galaxy thing, which costs some 3 lakhs, and I want the iPhone at 1,92,000, or there is this One Touch, something which is 35,000, or the Nokia, the old one, which is 9,000. Which one do I buy? Or suppose something in the phone they'll tell you in cars. So some client calls and says, hey, there is Mercedes which I want to buy. But there is also very good Skoda. There's also a very, very nice Maruti. And there's a smaller car which is there. So which of these cars should I buy? I give you 4 choices. What would you tell your client?
I would say go have a test drive. Of all the cars.
What would you say?
I would ask him to check how much is your yearly insurance, what is the maintenance cost. Then you decide which car to buy.
What would you say, Supreet?
I would say, depending on his status and thing, he has to buy that, take a choice. How can I tell him what car he has to buy?
And what would you say, Mercedes?
No, it depends on the image that you want to carry on and what you can afford.
And what if he doesn't have the money to buy that? He wants this image. He wants to be this really cool guy.
Dream.
But no,
Don't dream.
So the point is, there is no instant answer for that. If some client comes to you and he wants something, your question is, you as an architect, we are all trained for this. We have the subject of sociology in college, don't we? We look at the client and say, what should this guy have? And if this is what he's having, his family is like this is the budget that it'll cost him, will it be suitable for him? And then you bring the proposal to him and tell him, this is what it'll cost you. The Mercedes costs so much, this costs so much, this costs so much, so what do you think you want? The Mercedes is doable, but too much money will go into it, so do you want to go for, so depends. So the point is, you end up being a friendly consultant and you try to solve the issue. I think that's the case with any of our projects. When it comes down to really what the client wants and the client goes overboard, you bring him down and say, no, that's not affordable, why don't you come down to this? Sometimes the client comes up with, he's got this, he's putting on this new shop, and he comes up with this very, very stupid budget, and you know that if he does that kind of an interior, the shop is not going to take off at all. Nobody's going to step into it. So what are you going to do? You're going to advise him, no sir, spend more, because if you do not have that spend, you don't create the frontage, you're not going to get walk-ins. So the architect ends up being an advisor of sorts until you come to this thing. In my, appointment letter, one of the first things is under scope of work, it says analysis of site, client requirements. So when you say analysis of site and client requirements, you are understanding what the site is all about, you're understanding what the client's requirements are, his pros and cons, and then you are coming up with the set of requirements which is suitable for that project. So you're helping him decide. And I think that role of architects is a must. No, Colin? You're looking very skeptical.
I mean, if the client has the money and he wants to spend, are we the ones to tell him no? I mean, our job is to design for him. Tomorrow he comes with any kind of site. Our job is to do the best for him. Why are we trying to tell him and he should do it this way? I mean, we have to do, he comes to us and says, okay, I want to do a apartment building on a commercial area. Who are we to stop him? I mean, we can tell him, but if he's really insistent and he wants to do it, why? Why are we going into that aspect of it?
Just 2 weeks back, I had a client, okay, and he already had approached another senior architect, not from here, from Kerala. He has his design as well as, his costing, the fee part and all that. He approached me. He wants a palatial house. Okay? So I gave my appointment letter with my fee, my proposal, everything. Then he sends me his, he said, depending on the fee, I will decide. So he wants a palace, but for a small fee. It's like that.
Yeah, it's always there. And you can't help it. Sometimes at that time you have to decide whether you want the job badly or not. So I think effectively we architects are a smart lot. I have to admit, because we eventually are taking the right decisions. We are helping our clients to make the right decisions, because that is part of our scope of work. That to understand the project, to understand the client, to understand the site, and to give a solution that is suitable and matching to all. And if we are able to do that, then we have no conflict between aesthetics versus economics. So I think the debate is not necessary at all.
No, there should be right balance.
Ultimately it's a balance. It has to, that equilibrium has to be maintained.
So, shall we continue the argument over drinks?
Yes. Yes.
I am agreeable to that.
Agreed. So thank you everybody.
Opinion poll now.
So thank you everyone. I think we have had a nice session. I hope all of you have enjoyed it. There was laughter. Excellent.
Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, my panelists, organizers, everybody, thank you. It has been a lovely evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone on the Doyens panel. I request you all to please stay back. Thank you so much, sir. That was a really fun and entertaining session and a lot of learning about budgets and designs. I'd like to now invite Mr. Indrajit Savji from ITP Media, along with Mr. Pritesh Salyan, Manager, Decor Pro by Asian Paints, to please come on the stage and felicitate the panel. Thank you so much, Bangalore. It's been a joy to present over here. You've been an absolutely amazing and a very patient audience. And I thank you from the entire team of ITP Media. Also, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the title sponsor Decor Pro by Asian Paints, associate partner Shuko India, category partner Nexion. Thank you all for your support.